Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought it would be a good idea to read some Am I the Asshole, but I thought why not make it the top post of the last week, and we can do one each week where we check back and see what is going on. Anyway, let's jump straight into it. I hope you enjoy, everyone. Am I the asshole if I break up with my fiancée after she showed a startling change of behaviour after getting engaged? I, male 30, just recently proposed to my girlfriend of 2 years, Sharon, female 30, like a month and a half ago, and it feels like the second the ring got on her finger, her attitude and behaviour took a total 180. The entire time we were dating, we seemed exceptionally compatible, and at least it seemed we shared common beliefs and morals. 7 weeks ago I proposed and she said yes, and I felt like it was the happiest moment for the two of us. But not even a week later, it's like her attitude totally flipped. I thought I knew all of her friends, but one day I came home and there were 6 women I've never seen before, and Sharon introduced me to them. I was curious as to why I was just now meeting them, when I had already met Sharon's 2 best friends, Michelle and Octavia, both not present, over a year and a half ago. Sharon said she wanted to make sure we were a sure thing before I met her inner circle. I found it strange, not to mention it was a weeknight and they were quickly draining my wine rack of wine. Sharon still had her own place, but she stayed with me so often she practically lives here. Still, I found it incredibly rude when they left with 4 empty bottles of rosé in their wake. I tried to talk to Sharon about having uninvited guests on weeknights, and she dismissed my grievance very flippantly, or that she brushed me off. Yeah, I'm not liking this. For one, it's your house. I get that, like, you two are engaged now, but that does not mean that she can just invite people to your place without asking, and having them drink your alcohol without asking. That's a bit rough, but let's continue. The following week she went out with the girls several times, and when she brought girls to my place, twice without notice, once with notice to appease me, her words, they all treated me like a butler, shaking their empty wine glasses at me for refills. After the 4th time, I made it clear that I would get a locked wine rack. Sharon just called me no fun after that. It gets worse. Sharon decided me and the girls got off on the wrong foot and said we should have dinner together at a nice restaurant. Well, I went, and it was not great. The 6 kept prodding me about my life, my house, my career, but deflected every question I asked. I got especially bad at night when they started talking about modern relationships and jealousy, and one of them brought up some key points about relationships that I thought Sharon and I were on the same page about, specifically what ifs regarding polyamory and being friends with exes. To my shock, Sharon said we shouldn't be too hasty on such decisions, which was totally 180 to how she expressed herself on these things only a month prior, where she was vehemently against keeping ex-intimate partners in friend circles and was staunchly monogamous. The worst part was when the bill arrived. Sharon announced it should be together and slid me the check. I told her she can't be serious, and we got into a bit of an argument. I ended it by putting my amount down in cash and walked out, leaving them to figure out the rest of the bill. The next days after that, Sharon kept calling me toxic and fragile, but every time I even pushed at it, she would give an apology and promise she was just stressed at work. Yeah, no, this isn't stress. This feels very much like using you. It's nuts. We haven't even planned the wedding yet. The worst part was this Monday when at work, I got a Nest doorbell alert, checking and saw Sharon and one of her 6 new friends arriving at my place, going in and exiting with my golf clubs. This was a set that was a gift from my father, and it cost a pretty penny too. So Sharon lending it out without my permission got me pissed. I immediately called Sharon and told her and her friend to return the clubs. Sharon tried to gaslight me, but you promised to lend the clubs to her boyfriend, remember? I told her the club's cost would move it into a serious crime, and her friend had an hour to return them or the cops would be called. Sharon kept insisting she got my permission, and I told her to cut the crap. Well, not 45 minutes later, I got another notification of Sharon and her friend coming back with the clubs and going inside, leaving them, Sharon's friend flipping off the Nest doorbell on the way out. I got home and saw Sharon's friend literally just threw the gloves and back of the living room floor. Sharon tried to talk to me about my toxicity again, and I told her again to cut the crap. I said if I knew this was how she was, I would have never proposed. That seemed to freak her out, and she again insisted that she was stressed from work, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her to return the ring and her key, and we would talk about our relationship this weekend. She cried and begged me not to cancel the engagement, and insisted that it was just stress. I told her again we will talk about it this weekend. She finally relented. I had my house rekeyed anyway after she left, just to be safe. Sharon has been texting me constant messages of love and apologies for getting swept up, and insisted she was only wanting to show me off to her close friends. I don't know, I'm just not buying it. The same close friends have been sending me texts daily calling me toxic and fragile, again saying they knew I wasn't man enough for Sharon or secure enough to share her with friends. A few of my friends that knew Sharon the entire 2 years we were dating were surprised and can't believe she turned hide this quick, and that there must be something missing, or that I am leaving something out. They say I must have said something to trigger her friends to act like this, and I had to have been the asshole somewhere along the process. I don't know, it's a lot to take from all directions right now. Sharon's been gone now for an hour. Breakup is official. I have the ring back. I did talk to Michelle via Facebook, and Michelle said her and Octavia were cousins of Sharon. And Michelle also said she knew the six and didn't care for them. Michelle didn't say much more than that. I did meet Sharon's parents, and they both seemed to like me, and the topic of Michelle and Octavia never came up around them. None of our finances were intermingled yet, but it was planned for later this month, which won't happen. I invited 3 of our mutual friends, Casey, John and Mike, to be here when Sharon got here. Sharon showed up and was surprised to see we had company. I said that they were here for both of our sakes. Sharon wanted to phone 3 of the 6 to come over to things out, and I refused. I used the club theft as a reason. Sharon sat on the couch very dramatically, and then asked if I really wanted to make this public. I outright asked why she changed so much after the engagement, and why she hid the existence of the 6. Sharon then went in again about how she insulates her inner circle until a partner is vetted. I called BS. I met her parents. What more inner circle than your parents? Sharon tried to deflect, but I wouldn't have it. I pointed out for how the last month her friends dropping by cost me nearly $500 in wine, which she, by the way, made no attempt to reimburse. I also pointed out her trying to make me pay an 8-person dinner bill without asking me first. She again said she wanted to show how great a guy I was, and how she clearly misjudged me and was disappointed in my attitude. I then asked about the clubs. She tried gaslighting with, "You totally said it was okay, remember?" And I kept saying bullshit. Mike piped in. He knew the clubs were a gift from my dad, and I was highly protective of them. He too called BS. And that's when Sharon turned her attention to Mike and John, saying, "Isn't he getting forgetful lately? Don't you remember when he forgot that one date?" And neither were buying it. I finally said that forget postponing the wedding or cancelling the engagement. The entire relationship is going to end if she isn't going to be straight with me. Sharon made a very long, exaggerated sigh. She took the ring off and dropped it on the coffee table. She got up to leave and said, "You're never going to find someone as good as me." and to send her stuff to her apartment. She left, and Casey, John, and Mike were totally stunned. All I could say was, believe me now. We ordered pizza and are waiting for it to arrive now. I am still utterly shocked and confused by Sharon's attitude. I'm sure that heartbreak will come next, but right now, I'm just kinda I was always on the not the asshole side. Like, it just seemed very manipulative. Having a secret circle of friends is very shifty to me. This weekend we will be doing a stream over on my channel Pixel Playground of Pokemon Scarlet. In this playthrough, we have to complete it within 100 in-game days without fast travel, over leveling, and the use of rare candies and experience candies unless we're raising up a Pokemon that is severely underleveled compared to the rest of the team. I hope to see you there. If you're interested, check out the link in the top comment. Am I the asshole for not agreeing to sleep in a bra? I, 22 female, recently went on a small family trip to celebrate my dad's early retirement. A family friend let us borrow their lake house, but sleeping arrangements meant that I had to share a room with my sister, 24 female, and her husband, 30 male, in a room with 2 beds. They are newlyweds who married quickly, so this is his first time going on a trip with us. I really didn't think it was going to be an issue because the whole lake available to us. We wouldn't be spending much time in the rooms. The first night there was no problem. The second night my sister pulled me aside right before I went to go get ready for bed and asked me to change what I was sleeping in because her husband was uncomfortable. For context, this might be TMI and I am sorry, I am not a flat-chested woman. It is quite literally the most annoying thing about my life, and I am not sorry that I do not sleep in a bra. That being said, it wasn't like I was sleeping in lingerie. It was just a big t-shirt, but because of how I'm built, you could still tell I was braless. I've never thought it was a big deal, but her husband is rather conservative in like all senses of the word. Okay, this is something where I'm already on the side of not the asshole. Like, at first I thought, oh, if they're like not wearing anything in this room, that's a bit of an asshole. But at the end of the day, that's not the case. I politely told my sister no, because the only things I brought were A, swimsuits, which would be even worse, B, a tight compression sports bra for beach volleyball, which I don't think is even medically advisable to sleep in, and C, a sweatshirt, which I guess would disguise it more, but it was hot and I didn't want to wear it. She pressed me again, and I said no again, pointing out that her husband sleeps shirtless. I don't actually care, but it seemed hypocritical to me, so I said that if I'm asked to find a way to cover up more, despite wearing a shirt, he should too. She got mad at me and said I was being ridiculous and staring at her husband. God no, I would never, and kept raising a stink and trying to involve the rest of my family, saying it was a simple request and I must be trying to tempt her husband. I loudly fired back that this wouldn't be a problem if her husband wasn't staring at my chest, which prompted my parents to have me sleep in the couch on the living room for the rest of the trip. I also made it a point for the rest of the trip to loudly call her husband out if he was looking too long at my chest in my swimsuit, which happened a couple times before he learnt his lesson. I didn't think I overreacted. I might have gotten a bit heated, but it was in line with my sister. But my family has kind of blamed me for ruining my dad's celebration by not letting it go, and I can't help but feel guilty. Am I the asshole? I don't think you're the asshole here. Understand if you were wearing nothing, but you weren't wearing nothing, you were wearing something. So at the end of the day, the way I see it is not the asshole, and a lot of people agreed. Someone has posted, not the asshole, but why wouldn't he have to sleep on the couch as a conservative, chivalrous man who was avoiding the temptation of the forbidden bosom? And then someone replied with short answer, because conservatism is about controlling women. And with that take, I bet you there was a bunch of people arguing with that one. Oh no, really. Not the asshole, you're wearing a effing shirt, you were decent, sister's husband is being a baby. Thank you for watching the video. If you're enjoying it, please consider hitting the like and the subscribe button. Also, you can hit the bell to be notified of when I upload next. Also, join Discord. It's going to be a great time. Hope to see you there. Am I the asshole for laughing at my crying ex-husband and calling his suffering karma? My ex-husband divorced me 3 years ago. When we got married, we agreed that we weren't going to have kids. I never wanted them. He said he didn't really want them. So yeah, 4 years into our marriage, he changed his mind, and he chose to divorce me because I wouldn't go back on our agreement and give him children. I'm not really a big believer in divorce. I was ready to be married for the rest of our lives. We had a good marriage, but I guess he didn't love me that much if he picked kids that didn't even exist over me. Right after our divorce, he almost instantly remarried. He got his new wife pregnant right away, and they have 2 kids together. In the 3 years since, I have finished my higher education and have accepted a high-paying job in healthcare. Life has actually been pretty good for me, and I've gotten to the point where I think I'm ready to start looking to settle down. Yesterday morning, my ex-husband showed up on my doorstep crying. I figured something pretty awful must have happened, so I let him in and got him a drink. He started to go on and crying about how awful his life is. He apparently hates his 2 kids. One of them is disabled and maybe autistic, and he has no money due to the kid being so expensive. His wife yells at him all the time. She got fat after having kids and doesn't want to lose the weight. She never puts out. He can never go anywhere anymore. He said that he wants to divorce from his new wife and he regrets ever leaving me. He asked me if I would take him back, and she said he learned his lesson. I couldn't help but laugh at him. It was so pitiful. His audacity also kind of astounded me. I told him that with 2 kids to support and his lack of loyalty, he is not a catch. I definitely wouldn't take him back. And maybe this was karma for divorcing me. He was pissed, called me an arsehole, and said that he thought I would be more supportive and would at least turn him down nicely. Am I the asshole? Honestly, I'm gonna be a person who will probably be contrarian and say I think everyone's the asshole. I think the OP is being a bit petty when they're like, it's karma for divorcing her because he wanted to have kids and now he regrets it. I think that's a bit of an asshole move, but at the end of the day, you weren't wanting to have kids, he was wanting kids, you divorced. Like, it sucks, but this sort of thing happens. If you don't agree on something, well, sometimes you either have to consider that maybe it's just not worth it. I think he is the asshole because he is now responsible for those 2 kids. And if he wants to divorce his new wife, that's fine. But he's still got to be a father to those kids, and it really seems like he doesn't want to be a father to those kids. He just wants to duck and run. So that's where I'm thinking he's the asshole. But let's see what everyone else thinks. The top comment says he does realize that divorcing his wife doesn't make his responsibility for his kids go away, right? Right? And that's what I say. The OP posted he suggested he would pay child support and we would basically pretend the last 3 years never happened. Am I the asshole for exposing my parents when they forgot about me on their wedding? I know this seems like a weird situation, but I just feel so angry and depressed that I feel the need to vent, even if no one is listening. So I, 17 female, was recently forgotten about on the day of my parents' wedding. My parents have been together for about 25 years, but they never actually got married. That is why when my dad, 50 male, proposed to my mother, 49 female, on their anniversary, which they have always celebrated on the date my mother found out she was pregnant with my eldest sister, even though they were already together before. Everyone, including me, was elated and celebrated the occasion with great joy. This happened all the way back in February. They immediately jumped into wedding planning, deciding very early on a small event in Hawaii, with just the closest family and friends for an intimate ceremony. Almost immediately, my mum asked my sister, 25 female, to be her maid of honour. My dad asked my brother, 22 male, to be his groomsman. I wasn't surprised or offended by this. My sister had always been a mummy's girl, and they both enjoyed spending time with each other, shopping and socialising. So they had a very close bond, and the same goes for my father and brother. They always played football together and messed around with cars. My father even trained my brother's team for a while in middle school. They had always left me as the odd one out. I tried to insert myself on my family's hobbies and groups that they had within our home, but was always rebuffed. Maybe they could sense that my interest on their activities wasn't all that genuine, or maybe they just didn't care. Either way, I was used to being the last and least important member of the family. Mum had sis and dad had a bro. My parents had each other, and my two siblings were closer to each other than they ever were to me, leaving me very lonely and isolated in my own home. During the preparations for the wedding initially, it was suggested that I be the flower girl, but my sister thought that the role would be more appropriate for her daughter, free female, so that idea was quickly tossed away. Later on, my maternal grandmother suggested I might read a poem or do a little bit of a speech during the ceremony, but both my parents refused because they wanted the wedding to be low-key, and they didn't think a cheesy and sappy speech would fit their vision. Their literal words. I was still okay with all of this, even though it hurt to know I would be the only member of the family to not actually be part of the wedding party, or have any role at all on the day. As the day approached, my parents and siblings got more and more caught up on the wedding planning. I noticed my mum didn't invite me dress shopping, and that whenever they would have discussions about the venue or the event, I was left out. So I decided to see if they would realise that I wasn't being involved at all, and kept quiet, waiting for them to ask me something, anything about the wedding. But that never happened. The wedding was set for 3 weeks ago, the end of August. The day before the departure, my mother casually asked if I had my luggage ready because we couldn't be late to the airport. I bluntly told her that I hadn't prepared anything. She got confused for a second, and then snapped at me for not being prepared. I then asked her if I even had a ticket, and her face went pale. Yep, they hadn't even bought me a ticket, and I'm not even sure if I had a room or any accommodations once there. Even though I was the only person in the family without a stable income, I work as a part-time babysitter. My parents had bought first-class tickets for my siblings and the couple of friends that they were attending the wedding, but had forgotten me. My mum told me not to make a big deal out of it, and that they can just find me a low-cost ticket last minute from a cheap airline. But I just replied by asking her that, then what? Do I even have a dress for the ceremony? She went with sis to buy hers and all the other female guests months ago, but I wasn't included. That's when my father came in and just told me to suck it up, and that I've never been a girly girl, so I could just wear whatever. I got mad at this because even though I'm not the most feminine girl on the planet, I would have loved to be included in such an important part of my parents' wedding, and it was about the fact that I was excluded for literally everything that had been going on for months. We all got into a fight with them calling me entitled and accusing me of making myself small intentionally so they would forget me, like that is a valid excuse for ignoring a child. They ended up telling me that if I was going to keep this attitude, I might as well skip the whole thing together. To which I responded with a defiant, fine, and went to my room. Next morning, they all left for Hawaii without me. The ceremony was really small, but they all posted loads of pictures on Insta and Facebook about how perfect and magical the whole week was being. People realized quickly I wasn't in any of the photos and asked my parents why, to which they replied that unfortunately I had caught COVID before the trip and had to stay behind. My blood boiled at this. I don't know why this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, but it was. I decided to take a COVID test and published a picture of myself holding the negative test and captured, "Not sick at all, just forgotten." I tagged everyone that had questioned my absence from the trip and the wedding in the picture, and for good measure, also every person invited to it. I also wrote in the comments about how my parents had literally forgotten about anything to do with me until the day before parting, and how they actually uninvited me. Most people were on my side and others couldn't believe it, and thought they must have been something more to the story than what I was saying. But one thing is for certain, I completely ruined my parents' wedding, and their day was overshadowed by my confession. At first, I felt quite satisfied with myself for standing up on my own, but after a barrage of messages from my family calling me every name in the book, and later, when they came back, them furiously attacking me for my immature actions and my spoiled behaviour, my pride deflated quickly, and I began to feel awful. I hate my family and I hate being in this house, but I'm a minor and can't leave just yet. I do feel like I could handle the situation better though, and now I feel depressed that I'm second guessing everything I did, not speaking up before to the way I exposed them. I also feel guilty for the lack of connection between all of my family and me, and maybe I could have done more. So, am I the asshole for ruining my parents' wedding when they forgot about me? And I'm gonna instantly say, not the asshole. It's a two-way street when it comes to relationships. They have to give, and you have to give. If you're not meeting yourself halfway, that's not a good relationship. Whether that's friendship, family, or anything like that. It's an important thing to make sure that you're giving both 100%. And unfortunately, they haven't done that for you. It seems like you're always left out. You're not the asshole. Like, at the end of the day, they decided to tell lies because they were taking responsibility for ignoring you. So at the end of the day, that's not your fault, that's theirs. So, not the asshole, and I hope you get out there soon. Everyone else said, not the asshole. Your parents effed up, they know it. Your siblings also effed up, they also know it. And you weren't making them look bad with your social media posts. You were correcting a lie. I hope you're able to qualify for a full ride scholarship, because something tells me you don't have much of a college fund if... Am I the asshole for telling my daughter I won't budge, even if she never speaks to me again? My daughter Casey, 17 female, worked and saved up money for around a year to be able to afford a better car than we could buy her without a family budget. My other daughter, Alana, 16 female, has ADHD. Recently got her driver's license and asked to drive Casey's car. Casey allowed it, but Alana ended up having a bad accident around 6 months ago, which basically rendered the car unusable. The insurance payout wasn't nearly enough to cover the replacement, and with Alana's medical bills from the accident, thankfully there was no permanent damage, just a broken arm and leg, there was no way we could afford to replace Casey's car immediately. Alana was very apologetic to Casey, and so were we since we couldn't afford to replace her car. Casey didn't accept our apology and has been basically avoiding us, skipping family dinners, and pretty much pretended that her mum, Alana, and I don't exist, and only talks to us if she needs a form signed for a school. I begged for her to come to a family therapy session, and she eventually relented, but with the condition that Alana wouldn't be present. In the therapy session, she told us that she won't be resuming a relationship with us until we can replace her car, which realistically won't be until next year. When the therapist asked how she expected us to do that, Casey said we could just make Alana work to earn the money. The issue is that Alana has severe ADHD and already has trouble managing her schoolwork. I'm worried that making her work to earn the money will harm her grades and have significant ramifications for her future. Casey said, well, she should have thought about that before destroying my car. I don't care. I'm not going to speak to any of you unless I have my car replaced. I responded that she was free to avoid speaking to me for as long as she wanted to, but I'm not going to permanently harm her sister's future to get her a car earlier. My wife agrees with me that we need to stand firm on our position, but is also genuinely afraid of Casey never speaking to her ever again. I understand that her car was ruined, but as a parent, I need to look out for all my children, not just one. I also don't want to set the precedent that emotional blackmail will work. Even what you're asking for is unreasonable. Am I the asshole? I'm gonna be honest. I think you are kind of an asshole. When she allowed sister to borrow the car, was that really her allowing her to borrow the car? Or feeling pressured Though from what I see here, just from a quick Google search, people with ADHD are serious risk of getting in car accidents. And if you think that your daughter has severe ADHD, that you don't want her to get a job, then she shouldn't be driving other people's cars unless they are willing to, unless like someone is willing to pay for that if something happens. I think there needs to be more information here. I feel like we're missing a lot, because honestly I want to know whether it was allowed to borrow the car, or if you guys had a hand in pressuring her into letting her borrow the car. You can't be serious. You're the asshole. You, your wife, and Alana. You keep using the excuse that Alana has severe ADHD, then why allow her to drive if she is incapable of being responsible? And that's what I said. I guarantee this has been Alana's life, and it's heartbreaking. How many toys, treasured items have you let Alana break, take, or use just to guilt Casey with, oh, you know your sister has severe ADHD, just let her. My middle son has autism. Mind you, he's higher functioning, but we planned on spending longer to teach him to drive. We spent so much more for extra lessons. I know my son, he will freeze for a second, that second counts. So we are taking longer before he gets his driver's license. And I never let his autism be an excuse to be a jerk to his brothers. When he was little, he could have had an outburst all he wants. I wasn't giving him his brother's stuff. He had to be respectful of their things. Good Lord, you failed both of them. And to add, it wasn't just the car. Well, the car situation is just the straw that broke the camel's back. She has felt so belittled, she'd rather pretend she doesn't have a family. Because why? When you prove over and over that she doesn't matter. And with that, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Those were the top 5 stories of this week, and I thought that was some pretty good ones. We had a You're the Asshole, which is a very different change of pace. We had plenty of Not the Assholes. I had an Everyone's the Asshole type of post. And you know what? I think that's great. If you guys have any thoughts or anything, leave in the comments below. I'd love to read them and engage with you. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye for now.